Yeah. But what do? You don't think about it. Yeah. Yeah, because you won't get a break. I think Bren will be here. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Boker Tov to everybody. It's really nice to have our sixth grade families and guests here. Shabbat Shalom also to those listening on the online. I would like to welcome everybody here. We're going to begin with a opening song just to warm up. It's not on the kids' prayer outline, but we're going to start with a little opening song. And please join in and sing. And anytime we're all singing, please join in.
This is Prayer for Peace. It's on page 353. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu. Al Kulam. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al Kulam. Salam. Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam. 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 Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam. Salam.
I'd like to invite everybody into a Shabbat space. That means be sure your cell phones are turned off and any other electronic devices you brought with them. No rings, no sounds, no thinking about the outside world. I'm going to invite us into a Shabbat space, and that's one way we do it, is making sure everything's on silent and that all we hear is the sounds of our prayers, our voices, and our inner thoughts. I'm going to begin the service. I want to thank our sixth grade students, are our leaders this morning, and I want to thank them for coming and taking on this adult responsibility. We're going to call them up to join us in Modeh Ani, a prayer about waking up and being thankful to have another day of life, and that will go into Ma Tovu. We're going to start on page.
Modeh Ani is on page 68.
On page 68, and kids come on up for it.
Sixth graders, come on up for this. Get you up here. Modeh Ani lefanecha, Melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta b'nishmati v'chemla, Rabba emunatecha. Modeh Ani lefanecha, Melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta b'nishmati v'chemla, Rabba emunatecha. you'll turn to page 74, we're going to do the traditional welcoming song of Ma Tovu. We're going to try to do it as a round. So we'll do it one time all together, then we'll break up into a round. So this side of the room will try to follow our service leaders over here, and this side over here can follow this side, and we'll see how this goes. Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha, Yisrael. So left side to keep going. Ma Tovu. Here we go, guys. Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha, Yisrael. Let's go one more time. Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha, Yisrael. Oh, that sounded beautiful. Okay. Judith?
We are on page, we turn to page 80. These are our morning blessings. These are our morning blessings. We're going to move you guys over here so we hear your voices, not my voice. And we're going to do the 4 blessings on page 80. Please join us in Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sech v'ivina lavchin ben yom u'ben laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokev kefufim. Amen. Oh, wait. Is it, it's 86?
It's 86.
Oh, that's Ethan and Dylan. Ethan and Dylan, you guys are up. Slicha.
Wait, do I use this?
86.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'sisan
Yitzivana.
v'tivanu v'aseh v'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai.
Yeah. Okay.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who follows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah.
That's okay. What's that? Okay, yeah, you need to.
I was on about.
Yeah, you're fine.
All right. O Adonai, our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths and the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel may know you by studying your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, hamalameh Torah la'amo Yisrael.
Please turn to page 88. These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. Please turn to page 102.
Oh, keep going.
Please read responsively. Even if our mouths were full of song as the sea, and our tongues full of joy and countless waves, and our lips full of praise as wide as the sky's expanse,
And were our eyes to shine like the sun and moon,
if our hands were spread out like heaven's eagles,
and our feet swift like young deer,
we could never thank you adequately, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, to bless your name for 10,000s of the many myriads of times. You granted favors to our ancestors and to us.
Please join us on page 106. And you need to come up to the mic. You guys can sit down. Louder.
Yitkara Sheme Rabba
Amen.
Be'ama Divara Hirte Ve'alich Mahute
Hayechon Yomechon Yidechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala
Ubizman Karib Bimaru. Amen.
Yishmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Le'amaya Yitbarach
Yitbarach V'Yishtaba V'Yipa'ar V'Maseh V'Yichalel Shemet
Udashah
Brechu
Le'ela. Kol birchata
V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damima B'yoma V'imaru.
Amen.
We now turn to page 108, the Baruchu. We're going to face this way. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Baruch Hu Adonai, Amivorach. Baruch Adonai, Amivorach, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema is on page 114. Nope. Oh, sorry. Page 110.
You guys can sit down. Only Fina has to stand.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvrei choshech oseh shalom uvrei et hakol hameir la'aretz v'ladarim alecha berachamim uvtu vo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai kulam b'chochma asita mala ha'aretz kinyanecha tit barach Adonai Eloheinu Shavach Maaseh Yadecha Ve'al Me'orei or She'asita Yefarucha Selah or Chadash Al Tzion Ta'ir Venizke Chulanu Mehera Le'oro Baruch Atah Adonai Yotzer
Me'orot. On page 110.
That was
Ben?
114.
114, yeah. 114 and then following page. Go ahead. You don't need to be by the mic, sorry.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha Behol Vavaha, Behol Nasheha, Behol Meodecha, Behayu, Hadavarim Ha'ele, Asher Anochi, Mitzahaha, Hayom Alivavecha, Vishinantam Livanecha, Vidivarta Bam, Vishivtecha Bevetecha, Uvlechtecha Vaderech, Ukshavrecha Ukumecha, Ukshartam Leod Al Yadecha, Behayu Totafot Beinecha, Ukshavtam Amizizot Beitecha, Uvisharecha, Leman Tiskeru, Vasitem et Kol Mitzvotai, Vitem Kedoshim Lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Leot Lachem Lelohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Page 121.
Adam's up here.
The eternal truth is that you alone are our God, and there is none else. May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exalt you in your justice. Let them beat their swords into plowshares and let their spears into pruning hooks.
Let nation not lift up sword against nation, or Lord nor any more.
You shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart.
The stranger that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal. Strangers in the land of Egypt.
Why do you crush my people and oppress my poor, asks God.
We know that the Eternal One defends the poor and upholds the rights of the needy.
Praise God Most High.
Blessed is God, deserving of blessing. Okay, Micha Mocha is on page 122. We're going to invite everybody up again. Come to the mic, guys. La 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 la. Shimcha Svataya Yachad Kulam Odu V'him Lichu Ve'ameru Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed La 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 Israel.
Adon. I know it's gonna be. Adonai
Nekadesh et Shimha ba'olam, Keshem shemakdishim oto b'minaro, Kakatu el yad neviecha, Zikara zel ze be'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivaot, Mikol kol haaretz, Kevodo, Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Mechadir, Shimcha b'chol haaretz, Baruch Kevod Adonai, Mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu, v'hu Yashmienu, Rachaman le'nei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Etzion, Ledor vador, Hallelujah. Ledor vador nagid kol lecha, U'netzach netzachim kedushacha nakdish, Yeshivacha aleinu, Le'ipinu lo yamush, Le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Okay. The Shamru is on page 132. You guys come closer. Shamru, Bnei Yisrael et Shabbat, Lasot et HaShabbat leDorotam berit olam. Shamru, Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat, Lasot et HaShabbat leDorotam berit olam. Bnei Yisrael, Oti le'olam v'shamru. Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat, Lasot et HaShabbat leDorotam berit olam. Shejamim Asadonai, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat, lasot et hashabat leDorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat v'yinafash, Shabbat v'yinafash, Shabbat v'yinafash v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat, lasot et hashabat leDorotam berit olam.
You may be seated. And we'll continue on page 134.
our God and God of our ancestors, be satisfied with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai our God, grant us your holy Shabbat as heritage. May Israel, who sanctifies your name, rest on Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Shabbat.
So page 137.
Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'atah levada berira ne'avod.
Please turn to page 138. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hato shemcha uvacha me'al la'adot.
Okay, Sim Shalom is on page 140. We're going to get all of our sixth graders back up again. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom. Ein v'chesed v'rachamim. Ein v'chesed v'rachamim. V'rachamim, sim shalom. Tova uvracha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amecha sim shalom. Tova uvracha. Sim shalom. Tova uvracha.
We're going to take a moment of silent prayer. The sixth graders stay up here because we still need you. But you can either read the prayers on page 142 or 143 on the left in the English, or take a moment and just add your own personal thoughts. They say the Amidah isn't complete without one new thought for the day.
Okay, Oseh Shalom is on page 142. On the bottom. Oseh Shalom Bimroma. Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru. Imru. Amen. Oseh
Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Except for Dylan and Ethan, I'm going to send the sixth graders back to their seats. And we're going to turn to Torah service, which is on page 244. And when the ark is open, we'll all stand. Are we singing welcome opening or not? Okay. Everyone rise, please.
And that's on page 244.
Ein kama Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kama Secha, Malchutecha Malchut, Kol Olamim, Umemsheltecha v'chol dor v'ador. Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Imloch, Le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz li'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. Av harachamim etiva birtzoncha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Ki v'cha levad batachnu, Melech Elram v'nisa, Yaron olamim. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Udevar Adonai Mirushalayim. Hey, wait, please.
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gad. Now turn around. Turn around. Adonai iti, U'neramema, Yemo Yachdav. Adonai, you guys can follow him. Akivula, Tiferet, Ve'hanetzach, Ve'hahod, Kichol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Kichol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Adonai, Ve'hamlacha, Ve'haminaseh, Kol the road. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam, Ha'olam Omeid. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha By the way, for those who want to follow along when we do read the Torah, it's going to be in this book, it's on page 850. And
We have, the students have each written some commentaries on the Torah, and they're going to present their commentaries broken up. We're going to do a couple before the Torah, a couple between Torah and Haftorah, and a couple after the Haftorah, so that we can focus on each one individually. So I'm going to invite our first Divrei Torah, Julie. The Torah section that we're focusing on, did you want to say something about it? Is about the Jubilee. It talks about, just like we have 6 days of work, and the seventh day is a Shabbat to God, we find out in this section that we have 6 ordinary years, and the 7th year of rest for the land. It's a Shabbat for the land as well. And this cycle goes on 7 times 7, and then on the 50th year is the Jubilee with a complete freedom, freeing of anything that hasn't been freed before. And so that's a 2-year cycle with no working the land and just eating and enjoying the produce that was there. On that Jubilee year, anybody was free. Produce was for everyone. Your field stopped, every 7 years your field stopped being yours. And especially on the 50th year, it was a whole Jubilee, and land even returned to an original family. So the idea was land was purchased by how many years were left to the Jubilee. That was its value. And similarly with slaves, they were purchased, a Jewish slave. Someone who had a debt could sell themselves into slavery, and on the 7th year, that was a year of release. So their value was how many years to the year of release. And if there was extra money and how much they were paid for, they actually took that money with them in the end. So they left with something. It was an interesting system, and the kids are going to be sharing some of the reaction to this section of Torah.
Hi, I'm Julie. So the thing I found interesting about this portion is that during the Jubilee year, that means it's the 2nd year in a row where the farmers can't sow or harvest their yields. So the question remains, how did the Israelites survive for these years? Well, they would have to ration their food with harvests from previous years. They would have to stockpile excess food and save it for the years when the land rests. It's a good thing this only applied to the ancient Israelites, because so much of our food today relies on harvests. Imagine going shopping at Costco or Safeway, but most of the plant-related products weren't available. Food just doesn't magically appear on our plate. Someone makes it and harvests the food that we need. The thing that we should take away from this portion is that we shouldn't eat more than we need. If we do that, we will have extras in case of a bad harvest or shortage of products. We have to remember to conserve and ration. And although we won't be as full now, our future selves will thank us for it. Because in the end, food won't always be plentiful, and we might not have all the food we want. What's important is that we have the food we need.
Hi, I'm Serafina. I found many interesting portions of this Torah reading. One was on the 7th year there is Shabbat, just like us on the 7th day of the week. I find it interesting because as Jews we continue to celebrate Shabbat on the 7th day, but we don't give our land a break on the 7th year. I find it interesting that God didn't just give humans a break, but the land as well. The land is providing us food in a sustainable place for life, so it deserves that break. Then on the 50th year, everyone and everything is freed. And I think that I found interesting was that you cannot do anything to the land during that year. And if we do that in California, what would the impact be given on our droughts and wildfires? I also found it interesting that a horn is sounded on Yom Kippur to end the break for the land. I feel it represents a new harvest and start. I can compare this to current day because on the 7th day we celebrate Shabbat and rest. During that day or year of rest, you relax and use what has been given to you. It also means appreciate what God has given you because God needs a rest as well. He will take what is provided from the earth. It mentioned that on the 50th year, you and the land are free from work just like current day. This compares to current day because around 50 years of work, you will mostly retire and enjoy the rest of what has been given to you. We may take things for granted or take more than what we need, so think what others and only take what is necessary.
Thank you. Our Torah reader today is going to be our Morah Diana Zankowski. And she's also going to be our calling by. God, I did call someone up to Malia. We don't have, oh, you are, okay. And you're doing you're following, perfect. If you want to, raise your hand fast, if you want to follow the Torah reading,
Find it.
follow the Torah as they come up. Okay, this is
It's on page 850.
The portion is Bechar, and the verses, it's in Leviticus chapter 25, and the verses that I will be reading are verses 1 through 5. But did we find it?
No, we don't. So.
Okay. So. Tamdi, Yehudit bat
Dina of Ephraim.
Dina v'Ephraim aliyah l'Torah, l'aliyah rishon l'Torah.
You want to have Rishon? Yeah. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'na'atan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen.
Amen. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe b'char Sinai lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta alehem ki tavo'u el haaretz asher ani noten lachem v'savita haaretz Shabbat le'Adonai sheishanim tizra sadecha v'sheishanim tizmor karmecha v'asavta et vuata uvashana hashvi'it Shabbaton yihyeh la'aretz Shabbat la'Adonai sadecha lo tizra v'charmecha lo tizmor Eit safiach ketziracha lo tikzor ve'eit anavi ve'eit inve nizirecha lo tivzor shanat Shabbaton yihyeh la'aretz.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
We have a couple more speeches now. Maya, why don't you go next, and then Adam? We'll get three in now. Here, wait, come up by the mic, though. So we hear you.
The thing I found interesting is the Israelites.
I hear you.
Okay. The thing I found interesting is the Israelites aren't allowed to plant new crops in the Sabbath of the land. So if they don't have any food left, how will they eat? Do they get food from other people, for example, Arab farmers, or do they just run out of food and end up starving? They also might plan ahead. If you know you aren't able to plant new crops, it would be smart to plan ahead. If there is a really good harvesting season, you can plant a lot of food so you don't starve the next time you aren't able to plant new crops. In conclusion, I think it is good to do all these things so you will not starve and you'll be able to eat well for the time you can't plant and harvest new food.
So why do I think this portion is important? Every year our planet is at risk, and every year farmers sow their fields, and every year the nutrients are sucked from the soil. If this happens enough, the soil becomes infertile and rocky. The soil isn't given time to regrow. With all of these rocks and bad soil, the trees can't grow roots that will hold down the dirt. So all the dirt is blown away, which is what started the Dust Bowl. With no soil, there's no food, no happy people, and a horrible famine starts up. So I think God gave us this rule to give the soil a rest year so that our plants, trees, and shrubs could grow and thrive. If we can follow this tradition, our children and our grandchildren will be happy and have enough to eat. And then our planet will thrive, and every year our farmers will still sow the fields, but this time we will be happy and we will live in harmony and always be in prosperity.
Hi, my name is Brendan, and I think it is interesting that the Jewish people went 2 years without harvesting crops. How would this affect the slaves, and did they know how much food to ration? How did they know how much food to ration and how many mouths to feed? Maybe this can teach us about growing food today by giving the soil a rest and letting it grow better. What if too many weeds grew during the 2 years without harvesting crops, and they had to spend even more time sowing their fields just to plant the seeds? Would they have to spend a lot more time, much more than 2 years without food? All of these concerns relate to modern times by showing the importance of saving for a rainy day.
We're going to call up our person who lifts Torah, our Hagbah, and our Galila. Okay, so you're going to take it down like this. You're going to like that, it's fine. You're going to bend your knees. We're going to all rise, please. We're going to lift the Torah. V'zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. You can just put it down. What's this? You're going to get to, Julie, we're going to move that book. We're going to give her that chair to sit with the Torah. We're going to address our Torah. Okay, whatever we have for addressing Torah. Here, you can sit down and I'll give it to you. That's the easier way to do it. We're going to first put on the dress.
Okay, our Haftorah of today is from Jeremiah. Everybody can sit down. It's from the Parsha Bechukotai. It's Jeremiah 16:19 to 17:14. If you'd like to follow along in the blue books, Skylar passed out there on page 880. And we're going to have two of our, Julie and Fina, one person. Yeah, are going to do the Torah, doing the Haftorah blessings before and after, and I'll read the actual Haftorah.
Do I tell them the page number?
No.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nevi'im tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hanemarim b'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'Ivnei hamed v'Tzedek.
Adonai Uzi Uzi Minusi Beyom Tzara Elecha Goyim Yavohu Me'afsei Aretz V'yomruhu Ach Shecher Nachalu Avotenu Chevel V'yein Bamo Al Moil Hayasel Lo Adam Elohim Vehem alo Elohim lechein hinani modiaham apam hazod odiem et jadi v'et gevurati v'yadu kishmi Adonai chatahat Yehuda ketuvah v'yet barzel b'tziporen shamir Charusha aluach libaham uluchanod mizbechotechem kiskor b'neihem mizbechotaham v'asherehem aleitz ra'anahan al givaot hagvahot harari basadeh chelchacho otzrotecha livazetein Bamotecha bechatat bechol gevulecha v'shamata uvechaha manachalatcha asher natati lach v'havaticha eroi vecha ba'eretz asher lo yadata ki eish kedatem beyafi adolam tukad Ko amahar Adonai arur hagever asher yiftach ba'adaham v'sham basar zro min Adonai yasur libo v'hayak ha'ar ba'aravaha v'lo yireh ki yavo toho v'shachan harerihim b'amid bahar eretz b'lecha V'milecha v'lo teshev Baruch hagever asher yiftach b'Adonai v'haya Adonai mivtacho v'haya k'eit shatul al mayim v'hayuval yishlach shara shahav v'lo yireh ki yavo chohom v'haya elehu ranahan Uvishnat batzoret v'lo yidahag v'lo yamish mea sod pri akahov halev mi kol hanush hu v'anush hu mi yedainu ani Adonai choker lev b'chein Kilayot v'latet leish kidrachahav kifri ma'alalav korei davar v'lo yalahad oseh osher v'lo b'mish pahat b'chatzi yamahav ya'az venu uvachari toho Adonai naval Kisei chavahod ma'arom merishon v'kol mikdashenu mikvei Yisrael Adonai kol zvecha yevshuhu v'surai ba'aretz yikatevu ki azu mikor ma'im chayim et Adonai Rifa'eni Adonai ve'erafehe Hoshieni v'ivashea Kitihilati ataha
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim Tzadik b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'na'eman, ha'omer v'yoseh, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
And we have a couple more thoughts on our Torah portion today. And I'll call up our final two students. Is it three? Two or three?
What I find interesting is that people were told to give the land a break. For example, every 7 years you can't plant anything in it. But you can still harvest and eat food that grows. This makes me think about how grass gets breaks from being used in sports so it will not die. Even though it's a different use of the principle, an idea from long ago could help modern things like sports fields.
The Torah portion, Bahar, states that you should give your land a break. Every 7 years on the 7th year, you should give your land a 1-year break, and every 50 years on the 50th year, you should give your land a 2-year break. On the 50th year, the Torah portion also states, and you shall hallow the 50th year. You shall proclaim release throughout the land for all of its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you shall return to your holding, and each of you shall return to your family. This means that if you bought a house on the 49th year, you would have to give it back to the owner on the 50th year. In this portion, I wonder what they would do during the 50th and 51st years if they ran out of food. In the modern world, I wonder if this means that on the 50th year you would get your debts paid off.
Hi, I'm Dylan. As I read this section of the Torah, I began to notice something. The number 7 is constantly brought up. The 7th day, the 7th year. After thinking about this, I saw something interesting. The portion states that the 7th year is a Sabbath, a complete rest. I noticed that the 7th year isn't always identical to the 7th day. For example, you work for the first 6 days or 6 years, then you rest on the 7th. This brings me back to the portion. As people, we worked our land for 6 years, and we allowed the land to rest on the 7th. My point is that we should honor the number 7 because it was chosen for us. The reason I keep bringing up this number is because I find it interesting. The number 7 is our number because of the days of creation. The days of creation are the reason that our weeks are 7 days. Without the number 7, we wouldn't have the 40-hour work week. What I take from the text is that we need to pay attention to the Sabbath. In conclusion, we need to pay attention because the Sabbath is the land, and everyone who lives on it needs the day of rest and regeneration.
Thank you to our 6th grade students for their words of Torah, and thank you to Mora Diana. As I was thinking about the Torah portion today, one little thought came to me. Imagine a year when you've already stored everything for a whole year. You've stored things for 2 years possibly. It's in your house, it's in your thing. Imagine if you always never got peaches because they were expensive. In 1 year, you could actually go to somebody's orchard and enjoy what's there. But imagine for the people who have property and wealth, what did they do in their leisure time? Did they carve things? Did they make things? Did they get to do their arts, their sports, the things they loved? I never thought about the leisure of having a whole year where you didn't feel as obligated to get out there and plant first thing in the morning or to till. I wonder if this economic system could have worked. We think they lived under this system for about 125 years and then abandoned it. In Israel today, this is actually the sabbatical year. This is the Shabbaton year, the Shabbat of Shabbatot. This is a jubilee, and there's a lot of practices and things and studies and things you can see online that are going on because of the sabbatical year, the jubilee, environmentally connected. So that's something you could connect at or look at when you see they're talking about sabbatical year or sabbatical studies. That's what they're referring to. It's also where the rabbi gets the idea of having a sabbatical and where universities take their sabbaticals. And so a lot of things from this Torah portion subtly affected our lives in ways we don't know. But Jews were the first people with the whole idea of a day of rest. It was such a strange concept to the other people living among them. You were either rich and had people work for you and you didn't work, or you were in poverty and you worked all the time. There was no thought of labor or break. That was, I think, one of our best gifts to the world was Shabbat. But I never thought about it, having a whole sabbatical year too, a year where you weren't quite as tied to your land. You stored, you prepared, sure, you might have been worried, but you also had time for leisure. It's an interesting concept. We're going to rise as we return the Torah to the ark.
Get our sixth grade students up here to help us do a skiing.
It's a tree of life for those who are festive and all its supporters are happy. It's a tree of life for those who are festive and all its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom.
I think everyone else gets to sit. We got everyone's Divrei Torah, right? Did we miss any? Good, we're good. Okay, Adam gets to stay up here for Aleinu, and everyone else gets to sit for a moment. Or actually stand for a moment, because it's Aleinu. Aleinu is on page
282.
282. Thank you. I don't know if we can hear the mic or not. Okay, let's try that. 282 when you're ready.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tegu l'aviyotzer bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, gevor aleinu k'chol b'amona, v'anachnu urim u'mishtachavim modim. Lifnei melech, malchei hapakim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shechlunot hashamayim v'yosed haaretz, u'Moshe yikaro hashamayim ima'al, u'shvinatu zo, v'gorei meromim, u'Eloheinu einod. Malkeinu efesuvato, kakatu givorato, vedatayo, mahashevota, elevavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, v'hashamayim ima'al, ve'al ha'aretz mikaka, einod. V'nechemar, Ehaya Adonai, v'melech al kol haaretz, hayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 287. I'm sorry, it's on, yeah. It's on. It says here 287, but that's not right. What? It's 294, yes. And we read together on page 295, and then we'll read together the Mourner's Kaddish. We think of our loved ones, whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. Yitkadal v'yikadash shemei rabah, b'yoma divrach kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabah mevorach le'olam le'olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. All are seated. We have some announcements before our closing songs.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Lisa Regev, co-chair of the school committee. Thank you to Harry and Judith Radowski and the wonderful sixth grade class for leading our service today. As a parent of a sixth grader myself, I'm particularly proud to see how far they've come in their studies in preparation for their B'nai Mitzvah. It's lovely. Thanks so much for our tech mensch, Skylar Cohen. Appreciate that. Setting up the live stream of the service. And thank you to the sixth grade class for sponsoring the Kiddush lunch today. At the end of the service, please join us for bagels and schmoozing. And Mora Diana, I apologize. Friday night services are held weekly at 8 p.m. except for the third Friday of the month, which is the family service held at 7:30 p.m. You're welcome to attend online or in person. Shabbat morning services are on hiatus during Rabbi Milder's sabbatical, so this was our special one for the class. Torah study meets online Saturdays at 9 a.m. Other upcoming events, the annual membership meeting will be held tomorrow, 12:30 p.m., where we will celebrate our accomplishments, approve new board members, and budget for the coming year. You're welcome to attend in person or online. The Interfaith Backpack Project is going strong. Please consider a contribution of $40 to provide a backpack and school supplies for low-income students in Livermore this fall. 100% of your donation will be used to buy school supplies. Shavuot service will be held at Temple Beit Torah in Fremont on Saturday, June 4th at 7:30 p.m. The service will be followed by a lively Shavuot text study, and on Sunday, June 5th at noon, Temple Beit Torah will host a Shavuot story time for families filled with crafts, friends, and ice cream. Summer park play dates for families with young children are back. These events are geared towards kids ages 0 to 5 and include Havdalah, Shabbat, and holiday-based fun at local playgrounds. Older siblings and non-members are welcome. The next play date is scheduled for June 12th with a Shavuot theme. For more information, to register for these events, please go to the Beth Emek website at bethemek.org. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to take this minute to publicly thank Lisa for all her work on behalf of the school committee. She has been here for the last 2 years, giving a lot of time to our school and our program, and I just want to say publicly, Toda Rabbah. So I have a moment to do that. We are going to, after the closing song, we're going to gather outside for Kiddush and Motzi. And after Kiddush and Motzi, we will have set up food inside. People are welcome to eat. Parents, if you brought food, it's going to be everyone sets up the buffet, set up buffet, so that everyone who has things in the fridge that they brought, they'll bring them out. We'll take about 5 minutes to set it up. The kids can schmooze and tell each other what a good job they did, because I'm very proud of you. Yasher Koach to every one of you. They were asked for their individual parts to pick something that they still felt very weak on, and they really honestly all did. So I'm really proud of them for taking time to perfect something else for the service and for taking things as maturely as they did. And as I said, once we do motzi, we'll come back in, and anyone who has food to put out will put that food out. And since we said motzi already outside, it'll be, once it's set up, everybody will then be invited to just come and eat. Everybody come on up, sixth graders that is, for our closing song.
So we're
What
going to
page?
turn to page 348. So we opened
Page.
with a song of peace, O Javot Shalom Aleinu. We're going to close with another song of peace, Bashana Haba'ah. We'll see how good it could be in the year to come. Guys, come closer to the microphones. Bashana Haba'ah, Le'shem Amir Chesed V'Nishbor Ziburim, Do-do-do. Yaladim Mahusha, Yisach Tofesed, Ein Habayim Levein, Hasana, Otire, Kamato Yeh, Bashana, Haba'ah, Otire, Kamato Yeh, Bashana, Haba'ah, Bashana, Haba'ah, Le'shem Ha'amir Chesed V'Nishbor Ziburim, Do-do-do. Yaladim Mahusha, Yisach Tofesed, Ein Habayim Levein, Hasada, Otire, Kamato Yeh, Bashana, Haba'ah, Otire, Kamato Yeh, Bashana, Haba'ah. Shabbat Shalom.